Hello, everyone. Welcome to Creativity-Hive's weekly program. I am Miriam Haugen, part of the Creativity-Hive team. We help creatives learn to make impactful storytelling videos through one-on-one teaching and live group coaching. And we're really excited to bring you this week's guest. But first, a word from our sponsor for today's show.
Today's episode is brought to you by Creative Workflow Solutions. Speed up your video workflows by booking a free consultation at creativeworkflowsolutions.com.
And speaking of which, we have the one and only Andrew Hicks. Welcome.
I think that sort of says it all.
Yeah. So Andrew, you are the creator of Creative Workflow Solutions. Tell us about what you do.
So we help companies and businesses who are creating a lot of videos generally to create these videos faster and in a more streamlined way. And that frees them up to be more creative and have more fun with their videos. But obviously it helps them get more content out there. It saves them time, saves them money, and yeah, it generally makes the workforce happier. That's generally what we do.
Yes.
And so with everyone creating so much content these days, it's in quite high demand because everyone wants to be getting more content out there, but it's got to maintain the same standards and be sort of pushing the boundaries of creativity. So you need to find ways to have the time to add that creativity, and that's where I come in.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to bring Neil and Mo on here. Hello, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, Andrew, how are you doing, Andrew?
Good, thanks.
Good.
It's been a
We're
while.
talking. People need to second time being on the show, and we got a little visit from his little one the last time around.
Yeah, she's not so little anymore. She's now 18 months old, and she's running around. She's actually doing lessons now, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what have you been working on that's new and exciting?
We've got quite a few projects on at the moment, but the main one we're going to talk about is something that we've called the Submachine, and it came from a company that I've been working with that are called BMP Creative, and they're an Emmy award-winning agency that mainly do YouTube and social media content, and they do it for anyone, but their main client is Netflix. So whenever Netflix are creating their shows, they create a lot of social media content, whether that's for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all those sort of platforms. And yeah, they're creating this content. And one of the things that they found that they were doing a lot of was creating these dynamic captions. So where the words that are said by the actors come up on the screen as they're said. So I think we're all fairly used to seeing captions, but they usually come up in a sort of sentence by sentence structure. So you might have words on there before they're said and that sort of thing. But they're creating them so they come up word by word. And that was quite a long and tedious process. So they created a few in-house workflows with that around Mogurts, and then they got in touch with me to try and see how they could maybe streamline that further. So we started using some of the data that we get from Premiere and created a workflow that drastically streamlines that process. And they say that on the shorter videos, it can speed things up by up to 15 times. And on the longer videos, it's just exponential. It's just so much faster. And for them, it just gives them time to focus on the appearance and the style and the fun stuff and be creative rather than having to worry about the actual content. So yeah, that's sort of an overview of what we've created so far.
So do you have a little sizzle reel that you can show us?
I do. How do you want to go about that? Should I just share it?
Well, there is, yeah, I think by sharing your screen.
Okay.
We can do that, and then I can make sure it is on the screen.
Okay, if you share my screen.
So Paul says, Andrew saved my bacon on many projects. That's cool.
Is that Paul Murphy?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good fun working with Paul. Always has interesting problems.
Uh-huh.
Okay. They're coming through?
No, I don't see. So is there a, gosh, is there a thing at the bottom of your screen for sharing your screen? Oh, here we go.
Okay, coming
Add
through.
to stream. Yes, add to stream. Here we go.
Where's the Vimeo? Sorry, close down my Vimeo.
So I should be saying here, thanks everybody, Betty, who's watching, for posting, and it's really fun to see all your comments in the chat. Hi to Dean Scott Smith and Christine and Paul Murphy and Ryan. Who else?
Miriam, which channels are these comments coming from?
LinkedIn, because that's where I mostly invite people.
Okay, cool.
So,
should I press play?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the audio coming through?
No, the audio's not. There we go.
You, the people, have the power. The power to create machines. The power to create happiness. You don't think that I can tell the difference?
Yes! Yes! Yes!
I'll have the cheese.
Very good.
Okay. So that was the quick demo. I can stop sharing there now.
Okay.
So yeah, that gives a little idea of sort of what it does. It wasn't ideal, but I guess there it did show the difference between the sort of generic basic captions, because they were automatically added by Vimeo, and then also the dynamic ones that we're sort of creating that sort of make your content stand out a lot more than these ones. So I can jump in and do a bit of a demo in Premiere.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So I'll just share again. Okay, is that coming through?
Yes, if I add it. Ta-da.
Okay. Can you all see Premiere?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the extension, this panel here, sort of the top left. And the start of this workflow is creating the CSVs using the inbuilt AI transcription from Adobe, because we wanted something that was Premiere based, that wasn't reliant on any other transcription software or anything like that. So you can see we've got these transcriptions here, and we start by transcribing the standard captions, which come out with, I think it's 42 characters. So we call this the long CSV. So this gives you a phrase or sentence that generally comes out. And this is how you usually see captions. And this is how you generally see captions out in the real world. And as you can see, they're fairly generic and boring. Then we can export a single word, or we try and do a single word. The lowest character count you can do is 7. So you can see that there's a few here that have multiple words and that sort of thing in the real world. And as you can see, they're fairly generic and boring. Then we can export a single word, or we try and do a single word that I need to know is a character count you can do on 7. So you can see that there's a few here that have multiple words and that sort of thing in the real world. And as you can see, they're fairly generic and boring. Then we can export a single word, or we try and do something that I need to know is a character count you can do on 7. So you can see that there's a few here that have multiple words and that sort of thing in the real world. And as you can see, they're fairly generic. Do I need to set up my audio?
Okay, we're having some audio problems here.
Andrew's stuck in a loop, a total loop.
Okay, we're having some audio problems here.
Oh dear, what's happening here?
Oh my goodness. So how do we solve this problem, guys?
Yeah, just stop sharing Andrew's screen. Just stop
Stop
sharing.
sharing. There we go. Does that solve the problem? I'm going to remove Andrew for a second here. That's not going to do it. I'm going to remove. Oh! Is Neil the problem?
I think so. Maybe.
Well, how about that?
Sorry,
Neil,
sorry
shame on you.
It was Neil. I think
I don't know what's going on.
I think he was running a browser and commenting, and there's a couple of seconds delay, so it looked like Andrew was just stuck in some crazy loop.
Yeah. Okay, where were we at?
Do I need to stop sharing and start sharing again?
Yeah, how about
please.
that? I'm gonna. Okay.
Okay, can you see Premiere?
Yes, that.
Yeah.
That's better.
Add Neil back
better.
in.
Yeah.
Okay,
mute
you're all
Neil
good
for
now.
a bit.
Okay, I'll start that again, I think. So we started with transcribing using the AI transcription tool in Premiere. So you can see here we have the fairly generic long form captions that come from Premiere. And we then also export the single word captions that you can get, which is a 7 character limit. So you can see sometimes you get words that come through,
right,
or words that come through. And this is what we're using as the base data. So if I just run a quick demo, I've got some that I exported here earlier. So we've got a drag and drop interface. You can also just select from the button as well. We'll select Moget. Let's check these. Cool. And then we need to select our video tracks. And we'll just go with 2 and 3, and then we'll create our captions. And what you'll see is the Mogets, our custom Mogets, start getting added. And we're then placing sentences or phrases, as we've called them, on separate video tracks. So you can see they're coming in. We'll just wait for these to complete. As you can see, they're coming in pretty quickly. Okay, there we go. So it's obviously quite a short one, depending on the length of your sequence. It can take a couple of minutes. But as you can see, we've got all of our words coming in, and you can already see that they're looking a bit more interesting and a bit more dynamic than the standard ones that we have down here. So I'll just close these. And if you just watch, you'll see that they come in word by word. Okay.
Whoa.
And this is all based on this Moget that's coming in here, so this motion graphics template. And we're just setting up our word progression based on the text input here. And then we've got a lot of different options that we can use here. So if I just come across to the Tools tab, you can see that we've got a number of editing options. So in order to get these to work, let's imagine we have a selection here. We need to make a selection of our Moget, and we want to change the color of all of our Mogets to, say, a nice strong red, just to make it stand out. Then we can select this sync style to all button, and that will do all of the Mogets that are on your timeline on those channels. Okay. So I select that, we're just going to start running, and what we should start to see is all of these Mogets get turned red. And you can see it's going through. So it's having to go through, we've probably got 50 or so Mogets here, and it's going through these and it's changing every single one to red. So if I go down here, you should start to see that it's being changed to red. Okay. Obviously, this might take a couple of minutes again, but it's obviously much faster than having to go through and say, change all of these manually.
Okay. Yeah.
So while it's going, anyone, any questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yep.
of course. That's great. If I had to, as an end user, had to maybe change the first 8 to red and the second 8 to blue and yellow and green, right? Is there any, at this stage in the development work, any visual indicator on color? Or is that something maybe at a later point that you could come in? So maybe all the pink at the Moget pinks at the moment, the salmon color, can those be changed, or could there be something like markers be set above certain Mogets that indicate the color, which would make it far easier for an end user to visually see which colors, as an editor or in an edit team, if you go through and say, I want to, use the yellow color customization. Maybe the font is different for the yellow color, right? For all the yellow color Mogets. And maybe I want to use that later on down the line, and I need to visually see it. Is there functionality for that, or is that something down on the roadmap?
At this stage, there isn't that functionality, but there's no reason you couldn't include that either via label color or via markers. As you said, markers might be the better option. I'm not sure how. I can see a function where maybe by the person speaking, if you had different persons speaking, if you wanted to change colors that way, I can see that being beneficial. But yeah, it's definitely something that we could look into. I think the color in this case, this is more an example. I don't know how much they're changing the color. But yeah, it's definitely something that you could do and look at.
If you look at it from a corporate perspective, and maybe they showing off something within the company, or they brand launch or something, and they have, let's imagine it's Coca-Cola, right? So Coca-Cola's they've got the video clips there, and they've got Coke Vanilla, they've got Coke Zero Sugar, Coke No Caffeine, and each one has maybe a different color according to the label on the bottle. I'd see it's in use in that sort of. That's just one of the scenarios I see it in useful.
And
So
Eric has a related question here. You can see it at the bottom of the screen. What if I wanted just a word or two in that sentence to be read and not all of them? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, so if we wanted to, so this comes down into the phrase section. So if we wanted to, say, change the font of just this phrase, then we can select the last one because we have the most text to check from. And let's say we want to change this to blue, and we're going to emphasize, let's say, the word work, as an example. Then we can select all of the Mogets from that phrase, and we're going to go sync the text settings. We'll do the font color. also the text settings. And again, what you should start to see as that comes through. Okay. Oh, well, sorry, that should have done the font. Sorry.
So that bars on the top is your visual indicator, right? On
Yeah,
the changes.
program. Yeah. Okay, so you can see that's come through, and we've got the word work has been emphasized as well, and you can see if the others have all been obviously left alone.
I think the question was from Eric, was that what if he wanted just a word or two in a sentence, like the sentence you have on screen now, to be red, but the rest would remain blue. Is that possible? I know from asking, if I had to ask myself, that would be built into the Moget itself, giving functionality.
So I don't think that functionality is in there. Sorry?
Tough questions. Everybody wants to, oh, well, if you can do this, then maybe we could do this.
I'm sure we could. I've mainly been testing sort of the fairly basic ones.
And this is still in development, right? It's not available to anybody quite yet.
Not at this stage. In production, and say they're using on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, they're getting a lot more out of it than I am in testing. But yeah, that's definitely something that we could add if they're not doing it already.
Yeah, I think Eric's question is it's a fair question, and it's actually a pretty simple solution once you're building the Moget. I mean, you just add the functionality into the Moget to be able to change text color, per character and so forth. So it's actually not that difficult. It's just I just don't see it here. I think it would take
you could definitely do it.
15 minutes to get it done.
Yeah, exactly. And what we've done with this is that the Moget is interchangeable. As long as you stick to sort of a few naming conventions, then you can completely change the Moget and say this one is a fairly complex Moget that specifically matches their workflow and style, but there's no reason you couldn't have this as a sort of 3 or 4 separate parameters that needed to be changed if that was what your workflow needed.
Right. Cool. So it's all very versatile.
Yeah, very versatile.
Cool.
The speed at which it does its thing, though, is something that I'm really fascinated with, because that's changing a lot of parameters in the look of the, putting the words coming in individually and splitting them off on different lines and everything like that. That is really a huge step forward.
Yeah, and that was the thing for these guys. They were having to input the text data, but then having to set the progression of the words and all of this manually. And they had a good workflow that was working, but it was very manual. So that was where we came in and sort of used the data and automated it, so they could speed up everything. And that's where it's sort of creating some very dynamic captions on their end. Awesome.
So your clients primarily are organizations like this that are there. They have this repetitive thing that they are doing all the time, and they say there's got to be a way to do this better.
Yeah, basically. And yeah, the way video is going, it can be sort of anyone. So I'm working with gaming companies trying to create localizations and versioning. I think, I'm working with guys who are trying to create sort of 4,000 to 5,000 videos from one base sort of master version. I'm working with some karaoke guys who are looking to create karaoke videos where the words come on the screen at the right time. There's YouTube channels that are creating sort of credits workflows and that sort of thing. yeah, it really depends. It can be anything that anyone is, like you said, doing repetitively,
Right.
and anywhere where if you can speed that up, it just means that the creatives can spend more time doing the cool stuff and the fun stuff.
Gee, being creative.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what they want to be doing, and that's what
Right.
makes them happier. So that's one of the things people are saying, is that the editors are just so much happier because they have these solutions. It stops them doing the boring sort of, whether it's copy and pasting or just monotonous clicking.
So if somebody is going, okay, Eric just says, I can't wait for the release. So when, where, how would one get this?
So we're hoping to release probably late this year, maybe next year. It's probably getting a bit tight with Christmas coming up. And we're looking into options of how to release. We might look at AE scripts. We might do it on a more individual basis. It'll probably be a sort of slow rollout. So I've chatted to Eric, so we might get some beta testers on and people to check it if there are features with like the one that he mentioned that we can look at.
So you might be looking for a beta tester?
Yeah, well, if there are people that have specific feature requests, then yeah, I think that could be handy. Because I think, like you throw it out there and everyone's going to say, oh, can it do this? Can it do that? I'd like it to do this for my specific workflow, or what can we do? And then we've got to see if we can figure all of that out. So obviously at this stage, it's been very much focused on what BMP Creative are doing and what they need.
Right.
And
obviously, they're the ones that have asked for it. So
yeah, and obviously there are a lot of other use cases out there. So yeah, any sort of feedback, thoughts, ideas that we can get would be great. So.
Okay, so if somebody said, me, I want to be a beta tester, reach out to you through your website, Creative Solutions?
Yeah, the website. I think
Workflow Solutions.
Or LinkedIn.
Yeah,
or,
LinkedIn.
My email is andrew@creativeworkflowsolutions.com. So yeah,
awesome.
Reach out and we can see what we can do.
Awesome. Very.
And are you concentrating, Andrew, on mainly captioning workflows at the moment?
No, not at all. This was just one that that came up. Say I'm working with a gaming company who are creating. It's more of a versioning workflow, so they're nothing to do with captions. Then I'm working with Yala on a sort of brand toolkit that helps automate their sort of changing aspect ratios and that sort of thing. Another interesting one I'm working on is a guy in the UK. They're looking to do some really amazing stuff with 360 video. And they need to extract stills from every frame, but of various angles. So we're looking to automate that, because that would be a very, very boring process. So yeah, it's just anything that people are finding repetitive. So yeah, it's definitely not limited to captions or molets. It's anything that you're doing repeatedly and at scale that's sort of worth solving, really.
Sure.
You are a brilliant problem solver. That's what I have concluded about you, is that somebody presents you with a problem and you go, yeah, I know how to do that. Let me work on that.
Yeah, so it's lots of figuring out. I think that's what I love about this, is it's always a different problem. There's so many different people doing different things. And yeah, problem solving is definitely where I get the reward, and the bit that I enjoy is, like you said, putting all the different pieces together to come up with a solution that helps everyone.
Are you going onto the AE Scripts marketplace for your products?
I'm looking to get one up there at the moment. It should be up hopefully quite soon. And that's to do with markers, and it basically goes through your entire sequence, gets all the markers and outputs all of those markers and the data around those markers to an HTML file. So that you can you can either send that HTML file to your clients to receive feedback. Or you can upload it to your backend. My client was using it on his backend for feedback with his clients. And the difference between my one and the one that you can automatically do out of Premiere is that the images are at full res, or the sequence res. So rather than getting those tiny little thumbnails that you can hardly see from the Premiere one, this one has full size thumbnails that you can check, and it also comes out with all the comments and stuff from the markers, and then it's fully responsive as well. So you can look at it on your phone, you can look at it on an iMac, and it's fully responsive.
Can those files, if can it be exported as an XML, brought into Premiere, and then onto a second editor's timeline as markers as well, or not?
No, that's not really workflow, because that would just sort of be like exporting an FCP XML. There's no reason you couldn't do that, but there's probably not really that much of a reason to, because you can just export as an FCP XML straight from Premiere. I don't know why you'd want to just do the markers when you probably get those in the project anyway.
Well, let's assume you're working between Premiere Pro and After Effects, and you brought in the Premiere Pro, maybe 10 shots on the timeline that have markers attached, and you bring them into After Effects as independent shots, and then markers attached. Is there, that's what I'm thinking in my mind. Can those markers with comments be brought in? Can your markers be brought in independently of Premiere and After Effects built-in markers, the way that Premiere After Effects does it, with the large thumbnails, which would be considerably more helpful than the little ones, but the markers are moving cross-platform between AE and PP, and which helps the compositor or the rotoscope artist to read the comments on those markers. Is there a possibility that can be done?
I can see a workflow where you make that so if you had corresponding like extensions in both platforms that both people had access to, and then you could upload the data or pass the data between them, I can see that working. Is that possible by Frame.io at the moment? Can you do that sort of thing?
Frame.io markers, Neil?
Some of it might
Some,
be. I think would be possible. I'd have to think about that in detail to make sure that it all would work. But you can get some markers into your Frame.io outputs now.
And does that work across into After Effects as well?
That I do not know.
Yeah,
I do not know.
That might be, If not, then we can give Frame.io a shout and they can have a look at that. There's definitely a few ways you could go around that. And again, it would probably come down to the specific workflow of how someone wanted something like that to work. One of the YouTube channels that I worked with, they needed a sort of notes, sort of like a very simple, basic, I guess, Frame.io sort of note taking for passing notes between editors. So we built a bit of a system that did that for them. So it would sort of be, I guess, like that, but cross app, and introducing imagery and markers and that sort of stuff. It's an interesting idea. It might be.
Are you working with a team now, Andrew, or are you still burning it at both ends?
Just at the moment. There's I've got a good network of people that I do work with and talk to and bounce ideas off, and that's always handy, because it can be it can get lonely, and sometimes it's just good to have someone who understands the problems as well. So always good to bounce ideas around.
So you're really the person, you are a kind of a one-man show with input and from other people. The network of people to bounce ideas off of.
And I think it's important to have that network of people to chat to. And like I talked to Paul a fair bit. I think you've had Yala on. I chat to Yala a fair bit as well. And yeah, it's often hard to find people that have this sort of that depth of the knowledge and
Really?
understanding in Premiere and After Effects and how to actually get things to talk to each other. Like if you look at some of, I think, Yala's recent articles on sort of the depth of Premiere Pro and how to get it doing what you want it to, his knowledge is pretty incredible.
Very much so. He's Jarla Lirapol is who he's referring to, and we've had him on the show too. So amazing. But I think it's time to be wrapping things up here. So any parting shots?
Yeah, sure. Andrew, what's next? What's coming up next? I'm sure you can drop a little bit of a hint somewhere.
The main projects at the moment are the gaming company that I'm working on, the versioning, and the karaoke ones. But I think in terms of moving forwards, I'd love to do some more work in sports. I've done a bit of sports work and things like the Cricket World Cup that just happened, the Football World Cup that's obviously upcoming, automating data output and converting that automatically into videos. I think there's some big. I think it'd be a lot of fun trying to create that sort of thing. Because if you imagine things coming out sort of straight after games, like highlights packages or stats and data packages, I think that would be interesting for a lot of people.
I'm sure you look at videos or at the games with a whole different set of eyes. You're going, you're thinking about how they did it, how they did certain things.
Yeah,
and how they could do it better.
Definitely.
Hey, Roland is here early in the morning.
Great. Oh, Roland, hi.
Yeah, I've been chatting a fair bit with Roland as well.
Awesome.
And probably the other thing that I think is quite interesting is keeping an eye on the AI and where that's going to. Obviously, the AI created images is just flying at the moment. It's very popular and it's improving and changing sort of day by day, and then the video creation on top of that is getting pretty impressive as well. So I think keep an eye on those. I'd love to do something that worked with the AI images and see how you could say automate hundreds of thousands of different images and then incorporate that into a video workflow. I think that could get pretty interesting. So yeah, those are pretty similar things that I'm interested in looking at.
Awesome.
So from what I've seen, the kind of development work that you're doing is really catered towards specific solutions, right? Is there anything on the roadmap to be able to, that you see you're going to be able to create for the general editor that just makes his life easy? I haven't seen that yet, so that's a question I've been meaning to ask you for a few months now.
So I really enjoy the custom stuff and those sort of big problems, and then I think some of those do filter down to the general editor. So I think sort of like what we're trying to do with this submachine tool is to build something that's based on a custom solution, but then bring that to a more general audience through sort of input from people like Eric. So I think that's sort of where I love doing the big custom work and working to a custom workflow. And then it's about, okay, so maybe there are more people that might be interested in this sort of thing. Let's see what we can do for a general.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you take all your custom stuff and drop it down a few levels and create a toolbox for, just as a GUI within Premiere that just lives there as a separate commodity that is sold as a general toolbox for automating X, Y, Z, changing colors, so forth, modes, all of that. But a toolbox of all or some of your offerings for the general editor, that would also be a great way to get the numbers up.
Yeah, well, I think Ivan at Excalibur does a pretty awesome job at some of that stuff. Like his toolbox and the Excalibur toolkit is amazing. And yeah, I think he's doing an amazing job, and I think he's fairly consistently adding to it and improving it, and there are options there. So yeah, it's not. I don't know about creating a toolbox, but I think there's still probably going to be a level of specificity in that it's to solve a specific problem rather than sort of fairly broad general usage. But hey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be looking forward to seeing what does happen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Andrew. You can stick around after we do the closing, and we can say our goodbyes after we end the broadcast. So, thank you everyone for coming. We'll talk to you soon.
Cool. See you everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.